Thank you, Katie. Well, welcome, everyone. It is so beautiful to see all these beautiful faces. We are still in March, and March has been coming in, I think, more like a lamb and going out like a lion. Doesn't it feel that way? Absolutely. Although my closet's very happy because I still have a lot of winter clothes that I want to wear. Anybody feel that way? You're not quite ready to relinquish the winter clothes yet? So, Dad, let's bring on the cool weather. Well, we're still good. We're still good. So today is March 19th. So as you guys all know, I always want to bring forward a fun holiday. So there are so many fun holidays today. But one of my favorites has to do with food and candy. And today is actually Chocolate Caramel Day. I know! Chocolate Caramel Day. So we'll share a little bit more about that later. So that's just kind of planting a seed there for all of you. Chocolate Caramel Day. But my talk today is called Pay It Forward, and it is Kindness Month, and so all month long we're talking about different aspects of kindness. And so as I was thinking about this, like I wasn't here last week, but I was here at the first week of March, and we talked mostly about self-kindness a couple of weeks ago, self-kindness. So today I want to talk more about paying it forward, having kindness to others. And I started to think about, when we are paying someone, right? When someone does something nice for us and we feel like, oh my God, I've got to pay them back, right? I've got to pay them back. Doesn't it feel like a debt? Right? I've got to pay back this debt because that person was nice to me. They were kind to me. They paid for my drinks, or they took me out to dinner, or they brought me a gift. Oh, I've got to pay them back. And it feels like this heavy debt. And it doesn't need to feel that way, obviously. People give out of the goodness of their hearts. We don't need to pay them back. Instead, as they did in the movie, how many of you saw it, Pay It Forward, right? It was all about, right, do something kind for someone, and instead of them paying you back, let them pay it forward to at least 3 people. Let them pay it forward. So I was thinking about that. It was like, all right, well, if paying it back feels like settling a debt, paying it forward feels like amplifying the good deed. Amplifying the good deed. Because I'm now going to spread that to at least 3 people. And I want you to be thinking about that today, and all through the month, and as you know, all through the rest of your life, not just on Sunday. How can we pay it forward? So the lesson we're going to be focusing on today is 3 things. So it's about living from the Christ within, because, and it was perfect that the song, our new song, maybe it was played last week, I apologize, our new song and what we talked about in the Daily Word about comfort, it really is about recognizing who we are intrinsically, and we are all divine expressions of God. So when we pay it forward, we are coming from that place of wanting to spread that to each other. So in, the book of the 5 Principles, A Guide to Practical Spirituality, I wanted to just share a little bit here. Pink tab. I even put little notes for myself. Share from the pink tab, Ellen. So what if it were possible to rise above such human travails and live effortlessly with an attitude of love and compassion for yourself and others? What if you could hold on to thoughts and feelings so positive that only good could be drawn to you? What if you could clear out the debris of the past and any fears so the future spirit could just shine from within and light the world? I love that, and that's the point of spiritual growth. It's living from the Christ within, making decisions from the higher self, loving with the unconditional and inexhaustible energy of the divine. So when we live from the Christ within, we are absolutely paying it forward. Now, right, there is also this ripple effect of kindness. Right? There is a ripple effect of kindness. Of course, if you do one good thing for someone, and they do one good thing for someone, and they do one, before you know it, we have touched everyone in the world. It's like that ripple effect or the butterfly effect, right? With the butterfly, does its thing somewhere in the world, we can feel it here. And I was watching something the other morning, and they had a story about this barber shop in, I think it was in Indianapolis. And, what they started to do was, they recognized there was a lot of crime in their community and a lot of gun violence. And they thought, well, what can we do? Instead of us preaching to the youth, let's bring the youth in here, and we will just listen to them. What can we do that's kinder than what's been going on in the world? And what they found was deep listening, and I think everyone recognized this. When we really listen to someone, we really listen deeply from that Christ within, we are being kind. And there is a ripple effect to that. Absolutely. And of course, right, we're always talking about unity principles. We are always talking about unity principles. And, this whole concept of, kindness heals. And when we think about prayer, I talked about this a couple weeks ago. Affirmative prayer to me is absolutely the epitome of paying it forward. Because when we pray, we are praying in the now, saying thank you and gratitude for what we have declared is ours in the future. So we are literally paying it forward to say thank you for my perfect health. Thank you for my great job. Thank you for my beautiful children. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are paying it forward when we pray. So we should always be paying it forward instead of trying to pay it back. How many of you agree with that? Yeah, the more I dove into this concept, the more it just made perfect sense to me. So of course we have an affirmation for today, and the affirmation is, I ripple in the currency of kindness. So let's say that together. I ripple in the currency of kindness. And you can go ahead and type that online as well. So how many of you as a kid, or even as an adult, went to a pond and tossed a stone into the water, right? Yeah, and how many times did you have to do it to get like the perfect ripple effect? A lot, right? A lot, right? But in, the world, right, we don't have to worry about, well, how many times is that going to ripple out? How many times? Even if we just touch one person, just one person. And that's always been my mantra. Whenever I do a corporate training, whenever I do a talk, whenever I write something, if only one person read it, if only one person was touched by it, that is all you need for that ripple effect. Because that one person will tell someone else, will tell someone else, will tell someone else. And you think about, we shared about this a couple weeks ago, just smiling at one person or hugging one person. That could be all they needed to make a major change in their life. And so today's talk is more a kind of show and tell than anything else, because as I was researching all these great stories of Pay It Forward, I spent hours and hours looking through different stories. And so I just, curated a few for today. But this one, I don't know if you can read the check there, but a waitress, after these two firefighters had come in, I think it was like in the middle of the night, first thing in the morning, they'd literally been up all night putting out a warehouse fire. And, they just wanted a hot meal after that. And in order, when the check, when it was time to give them the check, the waitress instead paid for their meal and wrote this beautiful note on the check, which basically says how much she appreciates what they do for the community, and how much she appreciates their bravery and their courage. And it just really, really touched the firemen so much. Obviously, she didn't have to pay for their check, and she didn't have to write that beautiful note. And what they found was that the waitress, and her name is, I know I have it on here somewhere, Woodward. This was in New Jersey a number of years ago, that she was saving and fundraising for her quadriplegic father to get a van. And I think she was trying to save $15,000 buy this van for her dad. And when they heard that, they started raising money, and they raised over $67,000. So $50,000 over what she actually needed. And they said, in a story to the Today Show, they said, this is just one example of how so many people in this world have incredible hearts, and they pay it forward so the circle keeps on moving, right? So, and I know a lot of times we're like, oh, I wish I could just help everyone. Right? And, we can't help everyone, but we can help one person. Now, maybe with the ripple effect, if we trace it all the way back, we're like, that one thing that we did literally helped everyone. So you have to start with someone. And as I was sharing a couple weeks ago, when you get all those envelopes in the mail, the requests for donations and money, and I spread them all out. I'm like, oh, I want to give to that one, I want to give to this one, oh, I used to give to that one. And it's like, I can't give to everyone, or I can't donate everywhere, I can't be everywhere at once, but I can choose one. And that's what we do here as well. as we decide which cause that we want to support. Right now we're supporting a cause, and so we're going to choose one, and we're going to do that. And then next month we're going to do something else. Mother Teresa said, never worry about numbers. Help one person at a time and always start with the person nearest you. Think about that. Just start with the person nearest you. And that's what that, example was with the waitress and the firemen. Right? These are firemen in her community, right there sitting in front of her. Start with the person nearest you. And, I think about how this plays out in our own life. Think about your own life. In my household, and I've shared this story so many times, too many dirty dishes in the sink all the time. All the time. And, if I want to pay it forward, instead of just doing my dishes, which is the responsible thing to do, and it's the agreement that we have made in our household, remember 4 agreements, the agreement we made, I can now clean all the dishes in the sink. I can clean my daughters, I can clean my sons, I can clean my husband's. I can clean all the dishes and I can pay it forward. I can be kind to somebody else without resentment, without expectation of getting anything in return. That's the whole thing about paying it forward. We're not expecting anything in return. Think about, you can bring your neighbor's mail in when they're on vacation, or maybe they're sick and shut in. We can bring meals. We can volunteer in our own Unity home here, right? Our greeters, our hospitality, our singers, right? Our performers, right? All of the things that we do in service to be kind to each other. That's another way that we help each other. So it's about deciding, what is mine to do? What do I want to do? What do I feel called to do? What do I feel passionate about doing? And do that one thing. So here's another one that I found, right? Seeking human kindness. And every time I pass somebody that's holding up a sign, need food, looking for a job, please help. So often we're like torn inside. It's like part of us wants to stop and help, and then there's always that I remember the devil and the angel I talked about? Like there's that back and forth, And for many years in California, I would always keep dollar bills in my car. Instead of where you put your sunglasses, that little holder that drops down, I would always have dollar bills. So if I was stopped at a light and there happened to be somebody, right there that had a sign, I would, at least give out $1. One point I was giving out sandwiches. I would try to always have at least one sandwich in the car so I could give out a sandwich. So when we think about people holding up a sign, right, instead of thinking about, well, they need to pay their debt to society, right? Pay it forward with kindness. We don't know why anyone is in the situation that they might be in. And here's the truth. I could have been that person. I could have been that person. Any one of us could have a catastrophic event in our lives where we forget who we are, we forget our power, we forget the friends that we have, and we feel lost. And so can we be kind to those that are in need? And, you think about it. We have so many different things that we do already, like the Meals on Wheels that we do here on Saturdays, the group, the ladies that come in and prepare all of that, and then they pick it up and they deliver it. Or how many of you ever adopted an animal from a shelter? Anyone? Yeah. That is definitely paying it forward. Because you bring that pet home, they shower you, right? I know, I've met Fran's little kitties. They're so sweet. Right? They shower you with kisses and love for your kindness, and they do give you comfort. Pet therapy is real. So ask people, what do you need? If you see someone, even if you don't think they need something, what can I do to support you? What would comfort you right now? And many times when someone has been going through something or they've lost someone, just listening to them is a way to be, kind. Just be with that person. Just be. So, quote, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." So think about that, right? We make a living. How do we make a living? We work. Sometimes we work really hard. We get a salary. We get bonuses. We get wages. We get titles. We make a living. We've been raised to go to school and go out into the world and make a good living. That's what we've been raised to do. So we make a living, but, many times it doesn't feel like that's enough, like something's missing. I think that's why we're called to our spiritual centers, because we need to be fed spiritually as well, right? We pay for our stuff, right? We buy our cars, we buy our houses, right? We buy nice clothes, and then we want to buy bigger and better, and that still doesn't fill that need sometimes within. So how do we find more purpose and meaning in our lives? By giving back, right? By being kind to others. Of course, we want to be kind to ourselves. Let's not forget that too. Self-care is not being selfish, but we want to be kind to others. So there's one group, and many of you probably are familiar with it, but it's called the Giving Pledge. How many of you have heard of the Giving Pledge? Anyone? So some hands went up, right? Then if you know about it, go ahead and type, yes, I know about the Giving Pledge online. So the Giving Pledge was actually started by Gates and I think Warren Buffett, but it was started by billionaires that recognize that, well, they have way more than they need, right? They've made a good living, and they have way more than they need. And they said, you know what? Let's start a pledge that we will give back 50%, 50% of their net profits every year. 50%. This was started, I think, back in 2010. I forgot to write down the exact year that they started the Giving Pledge. It is now over 200 plus billionaires in 28 countries. And it's not just giving money, but they also come together and they discuss, like, how can we do better in the world? How can we solve a lot of the world's problems? And I thought about that for myself. I'm like, oh, I thought I was pretty generous, but I don't give 50% of my net profits. I don't think, there's not much when I get down to what the net profit is, but would I be willing to give half of that away? And I started to say, well, why wouldn't I? We are abundant. We are unlimited. God doesn't know, a dollar from $1 million. It's just more zeros, and zero is nothing, right? When you think about it, a zero is nothing. That's the definition. So why don't we pay it forward more often, be more generous? And once again, it doesn't have to be money. It can be with our time. It can be with our talent. Now, let's look at some examples of some businesses that also did pay it forward. So this should be, this is Mason Wortman of Wortman's Pizza Restaurant in Philadelphia. So anyone that lived in Philadelphia, maybe you know this place. But he started a pay it forward movement where he asked people to donate just $1, one extra dollar from their order, like whatever, let's say it costs $5 to buy a slice of pizza, he would ask for 6, and then he would put that extra dollar on a sticky note. And there you can see all these sticky notes. And then homeless or whoever needed some food could come in, take a sticky note off the wall, and use that for a slice of pizza. I thought that was brilliant and so simple. And again, doesn't this have to be homeless? I think of all the starving students, right, that need a slice of pizza in the middle of the night from studying. But let's look at another one. So similar to Wortman's business model, Lisa Ludwitsky, she created a cleverly named Pie It Forward in her shop in Detroit called Sister Pie. And this very similar, she would have a previous customer just pay for a slice of pie, and once again, you could just take that coupon and get yourself a slice of pie. Now, again, we see this played out, and think about how you could do this in your own communities, in your own neighborhoods. When I was living in California, I did a lot of work at the Claremont colleges in Claremont, and I had a favorite bakery that I used to love to go in after my trainings and get either a challah or get like a cupcake or a cookie. You know I love my sweets. So they would always have a bulletin board where there were people that were collecting for something. And there was one organization where they were collecting for the homeless, so shoes, clothes, and they would write the items that you could purchase on a little card. And so you would just take the card, and it was all honor system. You would take the card home, you would buy whatever was on it, and then you would just bring it back and put it into their, their bin. And so I would frequently take those cards whenever I was in to, pick up an item and bring the item back. Same thing with my Planet Fitness. They always have a bin. There's a bin for something they're always collecting for. We have a bin right out front to collect food. So there's many ways that we can pay it forward. Again, we don't have to think too hard. Christmas time, another one that we used to do is with a Christmas tree, we'd have little paper stars with kids' names on it and their ages. So that you would take the star off the tree, you'd go buy a gift, and once again, you would donate that. So a purposeful act or extension of kindness to another is never wasted. It is always resides in the hearts of all those involved in the chain of love. Now, here's one chain of love that is amazing. How many of you know about the kidney chain? The kidney chain. Okay, wow. I forgot when I first heard about this, but it was started because people that were in need of a kidney, of course, you'd want to give your kid, we have two, so a lot of times if somebody in your family needed a kidney, you would think you'd be a perfect match. And you'd go be tested and find out you're not. And it's like, how is my loved one going to get a kidney if their own family isn't a perfect match? So somebody started this kidney chain where I'll donate my kidney. I don't know who it's going to go to, but if everyone that was willing to donate a kidney to a loved one donates a kidney in this chain, eventually it's going to come back and my loved one is going to get someone's kidney. I was like, wow. And then once again I thought, am I willing to pay that forward if someone in my family needed a kidney or a liver or blood? And I do give blood, but unfortunately because I had an illness many years ago that just disqualified me from giving blood, but I gave it anyway. Truthfully, I gave it anyway a few months ago, and then I get this letter from the Red Cross, this big red alert, do you know that you may have? And at first I was like, oh, I was cured of that 20 years ago. And then because I have antibodies in my body. But it made me feel bad. I'm like, oh, no, I can't give blood to anybody else who might need it, but I can give blood to myself. So they do let you give blood to yourself. So you can pay it backwards. Pay that backwards. Pay it to yourself. Right. So here's some other examples of paying it forward here. So a complete stranger gave $10,000 to someone who did need a liver transplant because she was not able to afford it. One lady contacted a hospital and said, I have all these air miles. They're going to expire and I'm never going to use them. Is there any families that need miles to go visit a sick loved one? So, think about all your air miles that might be expiring. Can you donate those? And here's another favorite one. Little boy saw that someone was about to get a ticket, a parking ticket, and asked his mom if he could put money in the meter so that he, could save that person from getting a $79 ticket. I don't know what it costs today to get a parking ticket. I know it's not cheap, right? So, a couple more. This one might be one of my favorites. So this was in Canada. Instead of passing out tickets, this policeman, actually they're called constables, in the spirit of Cupid on Valentine's Day, decided to hand out candy and flowers and cards to people. With his own money, he bought 30 roses, cards, and assorted flowers to give out to traffic offenders. So he'd pull people over, right? And of course, the people are waiting, like, oh, God, please don't give me a speeding ticket, whatever it is that, or I didn't realize the light had turned red. Instead, he gave them a handwritten card and either candy or flowers. And actually, he gave a hockey-themed card to one woman, said, Happy Valentine's Day from St. Anne's Police Department. P.S. Fix your headlight. Right. And think about this, though, paying it forward. When you notice someone's lights are out, my daughter and I were in the car about a week ago, and the guy in front of us, their brake lights were out. And we're like, we should pull them over and let them know because that's dangerous. So think about how we could also pay it forward, be kind to each other by letting each other know about things that could be potentially, life-threatening to someone. So I love that story. So, thinking about, again, how can I apply this in my own life? Instead of getting mad at your family for not doing their dishes, or your husband for not making the bed, or fixing the thing that they said they were going to fix, what if you went home instead and you wrote out a handwritten note that said how much you love them, what an amazing person they are. Focus on all the things you care about them, and hand that to them instead, and say, I love you. P.S. Could you remember to make the bed? Right. I would say leave the P.S. off. I have found that when you are kinder and more loving and warmer, at least to your family members and your friends, they are kind to you. And same thing with strangers. That person you may never see that person ever again, but you will leave a lasting impact on them. I'll never forget some smiles, random strangers on the street or the subway. And what a difference it makes in our lives. I think this is our last quote. I've learned that you shouldn't go through life with a catcher's mitt on both hands. You need to be able to throw something back. Right? Maya Angelou said that. And think about that. That's the divine flow. That is the divine flow. Instead of always receiving, and we talk a lot about that in our spiritual practice. What can I receive? But what can I give back? And think about, go through your closets. How many of you have stuff in your closets that you can give back? Right? Give back to Goodwill. I'll tell you, I have a really funny story about that. I ended up giving back a shirt that I got from Goodwill. I was randomly going through my closet. I'm like, I haven't worn this one in a while. And I took it to Goodwill. And weeks later, I was like, oh, I love that shirt. I think I had forgotten. Right? But the divine flow, right? The divine flow. So, go through your closets, do the things to give back to your communities, give back to people in need. I'm in many programs online, many that have great content, great speakers. And one of the things that we learned was it's not just about what that speaker can give to you or the information they're giving you, but ask them, what can I do to serve you? What can I do to help you in your business? What do you need personally? Because we're all people, right? We stand up and we present ourselves in our line of work as our experts, but at the end of the day, as they say, we all take our pants off the same, or we all put our pants on the same way. I think that's the way it goes, the other way, right? Put your pants on the same. Right? We're all people, right? We're all people. And even when you do pay for something, you can repay that by saying thank you. That's so important. We forget, even when people are doing their jobs, a thank you still goes a long way. Speaking of thank yous, on March 29th, Jersey Mike's, I saw a commercial about this, Jersey Mike's is giving 100% of their sales back to the community. They're selecting different local charities to give to. So on one day, 100% of their sales. And they also do those kinds of things in the schools, too, where they'll go into a school and they'll say, pick a day, and we'll promote that, and everyone that comes in and buys sandwiches from us on that day, we will give that money to your school. So these are ways that we can pay it forward. So the last one here, I think this is my last one. Yeah, remember, out of work, homeless, anything helps. And once again, think about how we can support each other. So your acts of kindness are iridescent wings. I love that word, iridescent wings of divine love which linger and continue to uplift others long after sharing. Long after sharing. And so, when we give our money, when we give our time, when we are, let's say, an organ donor, right, on our licenses, when we tithe, when we do fundraisers, when we pledge, and even our planting, our community planting day that's coming up is going to be a way that will, spread its gifts long after the actual deed. So let's finish up with our affirmation. Once again, I ripple in the currency of kindness.